This is a toaster. It has 0 gigabytes of RAM. And do you want to know what it does? It makes toast every time. No lag, no updates, no overheating. Now this has 24 gigabytes of RAM. It has RGB lighting, vapor cooling, a super powerful chipset, and still completely refreshes the app whenever I switch back to it. You see what I'm getting at here? We need to talk. Sup, Rotten? I came across this post the other day, and it said, imagine thinking 8 gigabytes of RAM phones are enough in the big 2025. It then showed an image of 8 gigabytes of RAM being teased and bullied by its higher RAM brethren. And I thought, wait, since when is 8 gigabytes not enough for a smartphone? In a world where phones once had 512 megabytes of RAM and worked fine, we now have mobile devices with 24 gigabytes of RAM just to open up TikTok 2 milliseconds faster. I'm afraid we've lost the plot. Smartphone specs are now meme-worthy. Like, why does this tiny rectangle have more RAM than most people's desktops? Once upon a time, your phone had just enough memory to check email, prank call your friends, and play Snake. It was a beautiful era. iPhone 3GS, 256 megabytes of RAM. Galaxy S4, 2 gigabytes of RAM. Pixel 1, 4 gigabytes of RAM. And they ran just fine because the software was light, humble, and accommodated for that. Then Android said, what if we doubled it every year forever? Suddenly, 8 gigabytes wasn't enough. 12 gigabytes is becoming more standard. And now we see phones with 16, 18, 24 gigabytes of RAM. We've got enough RAM to start a football team. This is crazy. Consumers often assume more RAM equals faster phone, but RAM doesn't improve performance past a certain point. It just sits unused. This is especially true on mobile platforms where the OS aggressively manages memory and background apps. Android and iOS both suspend background apps to conserve power. Even with over 12 gigabytes of RAM, the system clears RAM space before it becomes a bottleneck. Most smartphone apps are lightweight. They're not designed to leverage large amounts of memory like desktop applications. Real-world performance is determined more by the chipset efficiency, software optimization, storage speed, and thermal management than by excess RAM. For example, Apple's iPhones run smoother with 6 to 8 gigabytes of RAM than many Android phones with double or triple that amount. Why? Because the iOS software stack is tightly optimized. It's not about the number, it's about the synergy. The only thing that will truly benefit from that amount of power is the lightning fast ads that'll spawn in before your game even gets to load. Much like this ad break from our sponsor, Wondershare. Alright, real talk. You can have 24 gigabytes of RAM, liquid cooling, and a neural AI copilot running your phone. But none of that will save you when you accidentally delete your entire video folder trying to make space for another software update you didn't ask for. That's where today's sponsor, Wondershare Recover It, comes in. Recover It is one of the most powerful and trusted data recovery tools out there. Whether you deleted something by mistake, lost files in a system crash, or your external drive just decided to quit on life, Recover It helps you get your stuff back. It works on Windows and Mac OS and supports recovery from just about anything. Internal hard drives, external SSDs, USB flash drives, SD cards, even corrupted drives and formatted partitions. No command line, no tech headaches, just click and go. Recover It supports over 1,000 file types, from videos and photos to documents, project files, and system data. And yes, you can recover video files that were partially overwritten thanks to their advanced video repair features. It works fast, UI is clean, and a necessity if you would like to avoid nightmares. So, if you ever had a where did my files go moment, and let's be honest, we all have, check out Wondershare Recover It using the link in the description below, and shout out to Wondershare for sponsoring this video. Let me be clear, a huge amount of RAM on a phone is not for you. It's for synthetic benchmarks, marketing hype, and tech YouTubers who say it's like a gaming PC in your pocket, unironically. But it's got 24 gigs, bro. You can run Fortnite, TikTok, and a live stream all at once. Okay, but why would you want to do that? It's a phone. Not to mention that your battery is going to have a good 10 minutes on it before it flatlines, but not before it melts a hole through your jeans. So what even is the point anyway? Most users won't come close to maxing out 12 gigabytes of RAM, let alone 24. door. The few exceptions are niche use cases, and even then, performance gains are minimal or unnoticeable. Streaming apps, messaging, photo editing, and even mobile gaming don't require massive RAM overhead. They use GPUs and CPU more than memory. Split screen multitasking or floating windows might bump up RAM usage, but 12 gigabytes is more than enough for most operations. RAM-hungry tasks like video rendering or high-end gaming are better handled on dedicated devices like laptops or consoles, not phones with limited thermal envelopes and constrained I/O speeds. And nobody's out here running Premiere Pro on their Galaxy. You're taking selfies and scrolling memes. This is like teaching a toddler Bankai, just in case. So let's do a quick checklist on people who don't need it. Your grandma playing Candy Crush. The girl posting thirst traps on Instagram. Me forgetting why I even open up my phone. And just about anybody else. Now, a quick checklist on who does need it. More RAM isn't free. It consumes power, creates heat, and takes up physical space on the device, affecting battery life and thermal stability. Devices with more RAM tend to throttle sooner if not cooled effectively. That makes the performance inconsistent, especially during sustained tasks like gaming or camera recording. Phone chassis are too compact for advanced cooling. RAM overkill makes this worse. If your idea of multitasking is switching between Spotify and DoorDash, I promise anything over 8 gigabytes of RAM isn't doing anything for you. The push for higher amounts of RAM isn't about improving user experience. It's about spec sheet wars. It's a sell tactic targeting uninformed buyers. This isn't really about RAM, it's about insecurity. Tech companies need new ways to make you feel like your perfectly fine phone is suddenly trash. So they add numbers. If there's a phone out with hella RAM, that must equal to you being behind. You're outdated. Brands like OnePlus, Xiaomi, Asus, and Red Magic use inflated RAM figures as a differentiator, especially in markets where consumers associate bigger numbers with better value. RAM capacity has become a vanity metric, like megapixels in cameras used to be. Listen, your dog deserves better selfies. Go ahead and get that phone with a 200 megapixel camera. They deserve it. These phones often lack optimization to match the hardware. You get high RAM but poor software longevity or support. Instead of improving update cycles, stability, or long-term support, some companies distract with extreme specs. Maybe focus on things that consumers could actually benefit from, other than way more RAM, like software optimization, battery life, thermal control, storage speed, longevity. It's easy to look at numbers and be like, iPhones aren't good enough in 2025. Apple gets away with 6 to 8 gigabytes of RAM and still beats half these phones in day-to-day use. Why? Optimization, not just flex specs. But here's the truth, your apps don't care. Most phones today don't even use half your RAM under normal conditions. If your phone has more memory than your laptop, but still struggles to open Instagram from the lock screen, we might have a problem. Your phone does not need 24 gigabytes of RAM. It needs stability. It needs efficiency. It needs a break. No, really, like put your phone down, like go outside, go for a walk, do something else. Let's bring back the toaster mindset. Fewer specs, better results. But Rotten Apple, what about AI? I guess I gotta talk about that, huh? It's true. AI models like large language models, or LLMs, image generation, or on-device machine learning do benefit from more memory. But most phones today are not running those kinds of models locally. The majority of AI features marketed on phones, like photo enhancement, voice assistance, or real-time transcription, rely on things like tiny optimized models and cloud-based processing. They're not running massive models locally that would justify the 24 gigabytes of RAM. The RAM footprint for these features is still modest, well within reach of a device with only 8 to 12 gigabytes. On-device AI is increasing, but the bottleneck isn't RAM. Even when AI features are handled locally, the chipset does most of the work. Thermal throttling kicks in before RAM usage even gets high enough. So sure, more RAM helps, but it's not the thing holding AI features back. If companies want real on-device AI, they need to improve model efficiency like what Apple and Google are currently doing. They need better thermal design, not just more memory. And users need applications that actually leverage it, which still barely exists. It's a theoretical feature, not a real need today. The AI needs more RAM argument is a forward-looking justification, not a practical one for most users right now. Like seriously, if your phone's AI features ever use 24 gigabytes of RAM, we're probably in a Black Mirror episode, which some could argue is an inevitability. But until then, most of these AI enhancements are performed in the cloud like ChatGPT and Google Bard, and extremely lightweight, like auto-categorizing photos and text correction. Even Google Pixel phones, arguably the most AI-forward consumer phone, operate with just 8 to 12 gigabytes of RAM. If AI is the future, then optimize it holistically, not just slap in more RAM. A responsible AI-forward phone should have a powerful dedicated NPU, run efficiently, manage heat intelligently, and prioritize privacy and offline capability. Throwing 24 gigabytes of RAM into a phone without software, thermal, or battery optimization, it's like building a rocket and launching it from your backyard. That's not a solution, it's marketing. So yeah, AI is the buzzword at the moment, but most AI features on phones right now, they don't even need half the RAM you have. And when they do get heavier, RAM alone won't fix the problem. Optimization will. And quite frankly, I haven't seen anything on iPhone's end to even justify that much power. The one thing that I was interested in, which was essentially Siri on steroids, wasn't even a real thing. Can we talk about that for a second? Apple, what are we doing here? Anyway, how much RAM does your phone have? Have you ever even maxed it out? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like early access to Ryan Apple videos long before the public gets to see them, or even a little custom avatar to go along with your name, feel free to support me on Patreon along with my Rotten and Rotten Pro subscribers, Vasco, France Gobeck, Sour Kiri, Glacius, Carbon Ranger, and Miss Game. Thank you all for the support as it keeps me dropping videos consistently, and thank you viewers for watching. If you want to see more of me, you know what to do. Hey y'all. Let me know if you like these nerd-focused little rant videos, because trust me, I have no problem yapping about things that most people probably don't care about. Okay, it's kind of my specialty.